Welcome to the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, where you get multifamily investing made real. Learn from top players in the real estate investment world as they share their secrets with you and discover proven strategies on apartment investing that actually work. To learn more about Wheelbarrow Profits, visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. Now to your hosts, Jake and Gino.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of the Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Jake, I'm doing good. We've got a great guest on today. I'm going to introduce you to him, but it feels like my kindred spirit. We've got very similar stories. We're going to be bashing the Northeast today, Jake. Let's go.
Here we go. So today's guest is Ben Leybovich. Ben is the founder of JustAskBenWhy.com. He was able to utilize the passive income benefits of real estate investing to overcome health issues and set himself on a path to financial freedom. So without further ado, Ben, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. 6 children? I almost fell off my chair right now. 6 children?
Yes.
And they're moving.
My wife falls off her chair every day, so don't worry about it. She's
Wow, she's a superwoman. 6 children,
yes.
and you're over here talking to us on a podcast. You should be changing diapers or something.
No,
Gino does wipe some butt every once in a while, right, Gino?
Yeah, she is superwoman. Listen, it's all about getting the team members, right? It's always about getting someone who's smarter and better than you, and that's what I ended up doing, and that's why she's smarter and better than me. She raises my ship, and there we go. You know,
that's exactly right. You marry up.
That's right. Let's jump into this thing because we were talking off camera. I want to know a lot about your story. You've got a fantastic story where you're from. You went to Lima, Ohio. You were talking about Lima, Ohio like it was Russia, making those comparisons. We got to talk all about that on the podcast where you're transitioning to. Let's jump into this thing.
Sure. So yeah, I've been in Arizona for about just under a year, maybe about 10 months. We just picked up and we went. And yeah, you guessed it. Having real estate, having some cash flow certainly affords some locational freedom to be able to say, hey, I'm done here. I'm going to go over there. That's not the only thing you need, but it certainly helps when you have some cash flow that is not location specific. But yeah, I lived, we came from Russia in 1989. I lived in Columbus. Then I ended up settling in Lima, which was good for me, but it was time to go. And we went. The decision was fairly quick. We just decided we were done, and we picked up, and we went to Arizona. And we have everything we could possibly want. You know, life is about finding your nirvana. And for us, at this stage in life, where we are, what we're doing is nirvana. It's fantastic.
What was a straw that broke the camel's back for you? Because I'll tell you mine, but you tell me yours first.
Sure. Well, okay, for me it was the snow. For me it was the snow, dude. I grew up in Russia. So snow and I have a very intimate relationship. And then I lived in Ohio. And in Ohio it's even worse because it's not just snow, it's dirty snow. Because you're talking a lot of industry, okay? So snow isn't white; it's off-white color, okay? But I, more than anything else, my wife wanted more educational opportunity for our children, better educational and more educational opportunity for our children, and so we kind of took, I would say, almost a year off. About 2 years ago, and we traveled to a lot of places. We went and visited a lot of friends. We went to Atlanta. And of course, you know, it's like a matrix. You know, you have to synthesize many different things. I wanted a growth market where real estate was something viable still in this cycle. I wanted education for my kids. I myself wanted to be looking at palm trees because I've never had an opportunity to live in a place where the blue skies and the sunshine and the palm trees and the pool year round and all that kind of stuff. I wanted that for myself. That's got nothing to do with anything else. I wanted it for myself. So you couple all that together, and we went to places like Atlanta, like Charlotte, North Carolina, like Raleigh, North Carolina, other places. And The only place that really came close was Charlotte. And I remember when that happened, I sat down one day and I thought, why do you like Charlotte? They're taking care of their infrastructure. They're widening their roads. The blacktops look a little blacker than you're used to seeing in the Midwest. The buildings look a little newer. It's, the roads are a little wider. What are they doing? It's the banking. There's a lot of banking. What are they doing? They're preparing themselves for some kind of pop. It was apparent. So it was probably best of breed in the Midwest, as far as I could tell. And, of course, the research triangle, the Durham, Raleigh, all that stuff. Educational opportunities are plentiful out there. But when I sat down to think about it, I liked it because it looked like Phoenix. That's why I liked it. I realized at the end of the day, I liked Charlotte. And I didn't like Raleigh, but I liked Charlotte. But the reason I like it is because it kind of tried to be the next Phoenix, I think, in my opinion. At least it looked that way to me. So then I thought, why bother moving to a place that wants to be like something else? Just move to a place that is that something else. And, of course, Charlotte still kind of looks like Midwest. And then besides that is the fact that Basis charter schools, which are nationally ranked as probably, well, not probably, the rankings just came out. They've got 5 schools in the top 10 in the country, and they've got 4 in the top 5. So that's a Basis school system that goes all the way from kindergarten to all the way to high school. And it's fantastic, and we applied, and it took a while for the kids to be accepted. But as soon as we got the letters that the kids were accepted, we just packed the Tesla up, and we went. And then I had my my property manager, my guy that takes care of my property in Lima, take a truck, put my other car in the back of the truck, get all of our stuff out of the house, and bring it to us a month after the fact, once we were already here.
Who's tending to the ship?
It's fine. He was only gone for about a week. What's going to happen? They were all standing upright when we got back.
Let me ask an important real estate question before I get into how you got into real estate, and I want to talk about your book and all. Talk about the differences between how you see the Midwest, the demographics, the, I guess, job growth, population growth, as opposed to where you're going. You're actually going to an emerging market. So can you just define the total differences between those two markets? Because this is important for real estate investors.
Well, so, there are the numbers, and then there's the liberal arts kind of view of what it, quote unquote, feels like to be, in these places. Of course, demographically, if you look, you're looking at growth. You're looking at population growth. You're looking at such dynamics as vacations, as retirement, draws. What is it there that is nice for people enough for them to make a conscious effort to be there? And there's nothing much in the Midwest. I mean, there are a few markets. Columbus, Ohio is a very strong market. Of course, that's where the government is, Ohio government. And so it's kind of natural that, that place is probably going to be better off than most others. You've got Indianapolis. You've got Charlotte. So we can take Midwest as a whole, or we can take individual markets here and there. I looked at pricing. I looked at property taxes. I looked at population growth. And the difference is just so apparent. And when we start talking about what my book content is about, I specifically address all this. There's something that happens when you're in a growth market. And I wouldn't call Phoenix MSA an emerging market. It was an emerging market 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's already, it's back at equilibrium. What I think it is intrinsic value right now. And the reason I think it's intrinsic value is because, like we were talking off camera, it costs the same as Columbus, Indianapolis, and all the rest of that stuff. Well, there's no reason for it to cost that because it's so much nicer out here, right? Mm-hmm. But it does. So intrinsically, it's at intrinsic value. And the reason I'm bullish on it is because I think it's worth more than the intrinsic value. I think it's worth more than Columbus. I think it's worth more than Indianapolis. And I think, it's just like fundamental investing, right? You buy a share of a company before the market as a whole recognizes the value of that company. Mm-hmm. And when the market recognizes and catches up, the shares that you're holding are worth so much more, which is why I'm a Tesla buyer. I own Tesla stock. This is exactly the reason. I think it's going to be $1,000 stock, and right now it's at $370, and 6 months ago it was $200, whatever it is, right? Because of future valuation on future whatever. In that case, it's cash flows. In this case, it's future population. People are moving here in droves. I remember driving here, and for every truck leaving, like U-Haul, you got 10 trucks coming in. It was so self-evident what the dynamic was in Phoenix, MSA.
So let me ask you about the Phoenix market specifically. Is there any fear for you, because I don't know the market that well, if there's no barriers to entry, if there's a low barrier to entry, are you afraid that there's going to be too much supply coming into the market as far as house building and expanding, and the demand might not keep up? Or is the demand that great where the supply will not overtake it?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that 1.9% population growth year over year, which is what it was in 2015, and the census came out now, and I'm not sure what it was, but it was the highest in the nation, again, second year in a row. Once you wrap your head around what it's like, 2 more people for every 100 people that are already here coming in, that's not growth. That's ridiculous, explosive something, okay? Cost of building is what it is. There's no magic to that, okay? We know what that is. There's building going out here like you wouldn't believe. Of course, there also is in the Midwest. If you look at Indianapolis, if you look at Columbus, Ohio, there's building everywhere. But they're charging the same thing as they're charging over here. And you got to ask yourself why. Why are people paying that?
You know why?
I don't want to scrape my windows in the winter.
That's right.
I don't.
They're used to that, because I live in New York, and I get the same thing. People look at me. I'm leaving next week. They're looking at me as if I'm the craziest person on the planet, the people that know me. Why would you want to live here? Now, if I tell you my property taxes, you'll say, okay, I'm packing my bags tomorrow. But the mindset is people are afraid. They think to try something different. See, me and you are around the same age. We're at the point in our lives where we're like, listen, there's something more to life than just punching a clock. I want to see sunshine. I want to see the sand. I want to experience something differently. I want to meet new friends. I want to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. Hence, we're on the podcast.
You're tired of Jake, huh?
Dude, I'm in Tennessee, guys. I've already done all this, and I've already reaped all the benefits. So I'm sitting here looking at the lake right now, and you guys are like talking about it's just happening. So I'm good.
Yeah, I'm sitting looking at the desert. He's looking at the lake. What the hell are you doing in New York?
I'm leaving. So I'm trying to get people motivated on this podcast to actually think outside the box and reevaluate your life. And really, the reason why all 3 of us can do this is because of real estate. And how did you get into real estate? How did you actually get into it? Why did you get into it? And how did you take that leap of faith?
Okay, so I mean, my story is pretty well known. So let's go through it really, really quick, because I really want to get to the book, because I'm really excited about it. I have a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. I received this diagnosis when I was in college, first year of master's degree, and the docs told me, probably not a good idea to plan on making money with violin. You're probably going to be in a wheelchair. So, I started kind of looking around and realizing that I needed to make money passively somehow, one way or the other. And real estate was it, because I didn't have the brain power to be the next, Zuckerberg. I didn't have, the capacity, the connections, the whatever to start a brick and mortar business. So real estate was it, and then combined with the fact that, if you know what you're doing, you don't need the money, which I didn't have, so it's a good thing. So real estate was it.
That's great. So, how did you actually get into the education space? Because you're really huge on Bigger Pockets. And how did you come up with the idea for this book that you've written right now?
Well, the education space, as to why I educate, is obviously because I'm not alone in the circumstances that I found myself in. So everybody has a different purpose in life. It's like that, that book. What's his name? Definite purpose. Okay, mine is to teach. I used to teach violin. I teach real estate now. I get off on teaching. It's what makes me happy. My mother used to always tell me an old Russian saying that it doesn't translate very well, but I'll try to do it justice. You find yourself standing in the field of corn, and only your eyes are above the tops of the corn, and you're looking around, and in your ears you're hearing bells, so you know there's a church somewhere. And you keep looking 360 and you don't see the church. But you know it's there because you hear the bells, but you can't see it. And that's the space I was in, and I was able to figure it out. And a lot of people are in that space where you're so close you can taste it, and yet so far away. You just can't see it. You can't put two and two together. So being able to be present to folks figuring that out, to being able to be present to help them 2 + 2. Here's what the answer is. Here's how you find it. Here's where you look for it. Gives me huge pleasure in life. So my definite purpose in life, or at least part of it, is to teach, is to educate. I love it on many different levels. So with that said, that's what I do. I mean, it's part of what I do on a daily basis. So that's how I got into teaching. Real estate is obviously what I teach because it's what I know. But the next piece of it is very simple. As an entrepreneur, and the logic goes much deeper than I want to touch on here. But as an entrepreneur, anytime I succeed at something, I have to imagine that the reason I wanted to succeed at it is the same reason somebody else will want to succeed at it. And so what I should do is, once I succeed or fail at something, I should teach why I succeeded at it or failed, because it's going to shorten people's learning curves. It's going to enable them to find their own path that much quicker. And that's what I do as an entrepreneur. At least that's part of what I do as an entrepreneur. So every step of the way, as I figure something out, I teach it to other people. It's to just makes sense to me to live my life that way. I try it, I do it, I succeed or fail, I tell about it. That's what it is. And this is what this latest book is about. This is my next attempt to teach a strategy which I think is one of the most, if not the most valuable and viable in this cycle, anywhere, for anybody really, but especially new players.
Let's jump into it. What's the strategy you're talking about? Let's dive into that strategy.
The strategy is house hacking. This is what I'm doing in Phoenix MSA. I backed into it practically on accident, but when I realized how valuable it was, I thought I'd write a book. Frankly, there were two impetus for me to write a book. I have two friends. One of them is named Brandon. You've heard of him. Yes. Last name Turner. The other one is Justin. So Brandon, several times a year, goes to Hawaii, and he loves it. For about 2 weeks, maybe a month after he comes back, all we hear about is how wonderful it is and how he would like to live there full term. Okay? Well, of course, it's not the only element. He's got his church. He's got his business. He's got his property, in Washington State. But cost of living, the fact that he, in order to go to Hawaii, would have to spend $1.5 or $2 million to buy something, is obviously one of the moving parts, one of the dynamics. Well, what I backed into, the way I'm doing house hacking and the way I'm succeeding at house hacking is the answer to this question. And so for him, I wrote the book. Justin, after I sent him the manuscript, he's my partner with my online entrepreneurial ventures. I called him, I said, I have this idea. He says, I have elderly parents. And my wife and I have been thinking about needing to relocate in order to help them. But they live in a highly desirable vacation spot, and property out there is just ridiculously expensive. And having followed what you've done with moving to Phoenix and how you handled this, I know the answer to that question, and I think you should write a book about it, because really you're going to help a lot of people with what you're talking about. So I decided to write a book, and the book is about house hacking. The title of the book is exactly that, House Hacking. It's coming out in about a month. The subtitle is The Only Real Estate Investing Strategy You Need to Build Wealth, Live for Free or Almost Free, and Make Money Through Home Ownership. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
Making money through home ownership. This is different than what we're hearing a lot out there these days. A lot of people are saying, don't buy a house. Pump the brakes here. We got to elaborate on this here. So dive in.
Here's the thing. You're talking about Cardone, of course.
Yes.
No, because the granddaddy of them all, the Mr. Rich Dad was the first one, right? He was the one that, and so Cardone's piggybacking off of something that came out in the 90s.
Here's the thing. This is very interesting. I'm glad you bring this up. My premise in life goes like this. I get up in the morning and I say, Ben, what do you want to do? And I answer to myself, I want to do X, Y, Z. And then I say, okay, are you independently wealthy? Can you just stroke a check and do that thing just because you can stroke a check to do that thing? And the answer to that question is, no, I'm not. I'm doing okay. I'm doing better than most. I'm doing well, but I'm not in a place where I've earned the right to just pick up a pen, stroke a check, and be done. Well, what's the answer then? You live once. If you want to do X, Y, Z, you owe it to yourself to do X, Y, Z. If you can't stroke a check for it, what do? And the answer is, you got to gear it to make you money. As long as X, Y, Z earns you money, you can do it all day long. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to talk about real estate all day long, create a course so people pay you for it. That way you can talk about real estate all day long. Start a podcast, monetize it. That way you can do podcasts all day long and talk to great guests like Ben Leybovich. You want to do quilts? Fine. Set up a video thing on YouTube teaching people how to quilt and have them pay you $5 a month to belong to a club. And if it's paying for it, fine. You want to travel? Great. Set up a travel channel on YouTube. Start a little travel thing, advisory thing on YouTube. Have people join the platform. They're paying you $5 a month? Great. You get to talk about what you love to talk about because you're getting paid for it. Because unless you're wealthy, you haven't earned the right to just indiscriminately do what you want to do. That's the space I find myself in. In order to do something that I really want to do, I have to gear it. I have to position it to make me money. And then I feel good about doing it because the more I do it, the more money it makes me. So it's all good. Looking at housing, the same thing. I have a very nice house with a pool in South Chandler, the place you want to live in Phoenix, MSA. A lot of people choose to live in a very desirable area. 2,500 square feet with a pool, granite, travertine, this and that, tile, the best house I've ever lived in. But it makes me money. This is why I can do this, is because it makes me money. So the difference in what Rich Dad Poor Dad is saying is that it's not so much a house versus whether it's an asset or liability. It's, does it make you money or not? Because if it makes you money, it's not a liability, it's an asset. That's his whole point. So we have to take the next intellectual step in the progression and say, if this is what I want, how do I make money with it? If you make money with it, then it's not a liability.
So how are you making money with it?
The same thing. Cardone is talking about, listen, you have to be able to move around. And I published an article on Bigger Pockets, or several articles on Bigger Pockets, in response to that Cardone thing where he talks about, don't buy a house. It's stupid. It ties you down to one location. You have to be able to move around. You have to be able to follow opportunity. As a young person today, this is what the economic environment is like. Well, he's right. And I told him he's right. On his show, I told him he's right. But I'm doing something different. My thing is making me money. So if I want to leave it, it's still making me money. It's not tying me down. It's making me money. And it's in a place that's appreciating, and that's beside the point. It's making me cash flow. That's the whole thing. The cash flow buys us flexibility. The cash flow buys us locational independence and locational freedom. So when I say don't buy a house, That's exactly what I say. Don't buy a house where you're paying the mortgage, you're paying the property taxes, you're paying the maintenance and upkeep, you're paying all that. That's a liability. Maybe don't do that. But, when I am big, when I grow up, and I can just indiscriminately stroke a check, maybe I'll rent. Maybe I will have a mansion over here for 6 months on the beach, and then I'll want to go into the mountains into a different mansion for the next 6 months, and then I haven't earned the right to do that. I have kids. They have school. I haven't earned the right for that kind of flexibility. So what's the next best thing I can do? I left Ohio where I owned a house, which cost me money. I didn't want to do that again. So the whole point was to find a solution to that problem, and that's what this book is about. It's basically a case study. And if you guys want to get into the numbers, I'd be happy to get into the numbers.
I don't know what the strategy is. I'm still waiting for the meat and potatoes here.
Okay. So when I left Ohio, I owned a home. It was a nice house. I built it in 2006. PITI burn cost me about $1,350. We went to Arizona, and in my mind, what I wanted to do was keep my burn the same for the living expenses. I wanted to upgrade my lifestyle. Let's just call it 10x, because that's what it ended up being. But I wanted more house, I wanted more amenities, I wanted infinitely better location, but I didn't want to burn any more than $1,350. Well, when we came here...
He's talking about his monthly burn rate. That's your all-in cost for it. I just want
principal,
for the folks...
interest, yes. Yep.
Yes. Principal, interest, tax, and insurance, PITI, okay? So when I came here, I realized that in order to accomplish this, and this is because property taxes are a lot lower here, I sold my house in Ohio for under $200,000. I could have bought a house here for $250,000, but it wasn't enough. We left Ohio to 10x our life, and $250,000 house 10 months ago in Chandler would have been a good house, but I wanted more. Because, again, we lived once. I wanted more. Well, I realized that in order to have the house in a location I want, with the amenity package I want, I'd have to be talking about $350,000 to $400,000 or more. Okay? That's what I would have had to be talking about. Well, if you work the numbers backwards, there's no way I was going to handle that with $1,350 of burn on PITI. So then it became evident that I had to subsidize a portion of this PITI with some kind of income. So then I started asking myself, well, do I look for some investment property first, generate some cash flow, then bridge that cash flow into the primary so that, my tenants over there are paying for my primary over here, that kind of thing. Or do I buy a duplex and do a traditional house hack, live on the one side and have tenants on the other side? The problem with the first was that I'm a no money down guy. I always try to put as little money down as possible in everything I do. As a primary owner, primary occupant, if I am buying a property, let's say a duplex, okay, I can get in with a whole lot less money down than if I'm buying it as an investment property. As an investment property, I'm pretty much boxed into 25% down, which is okay, but if I can do 5, why do 25? Okay? So on that end, buying investment property just kind of didn't end up appealing very much. Now, the duplex situation or a triplex or whatever, if I could find something in the location I wanted and something quality construction like I wanted, because, again, we didn't come out here to compress our lifestyle. We came out here to 10x our lifestyle, okay? And I wasn't going to compromise on that. Yes, it was a monetary thing, but I needed to synergize that with the fact that I want a certain lifestyle for my family, and I'm just not going to do it any other way, okay? So there were no duplexes or triplexes, that are close enough to kids' school, that are in a location that I wanted, that value would support a rehab like I wanted, it wasn't possible. It wasn't there. I could do it, but again, I would have to compromise on everything I came for. And that wasn't the point. What I did find here is something they call multi-generational living. So if you look at Phoenix and you look at population and you look at why people come here, they come for two reasons. Well, they come for many reasons: vacation, retirement, jobs, all of that. But when you combine jobs and retirement, what you get is, hey, here's a family, young family coming. My father is dead. My mother is coming with me. She needs her quarters. They probably need to be separate. She needs her own bathroom, this and that and the other, okay? So builders build floor plans, layouts that are conducive to this they call multi-generational style living, multi-generation floor plans. So what this looks like is you have a main house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 3, whatever. And then you have an attached mother-in-law suite with its own entrance, with its own bathroom, with its own closet, that kind of thing, okay? When I realized this, I realized that this is the deal. This is the way to go, because that mother-in-law suite, they call it casita over here, that mother-in-law suite is essentially a rental. Now, we're going to discuss in a bit what kind of rental, but basically it's a rental. And it buys me a primary, like a real house, a real primary, with the main house being a real main house. Mm-hmm. It's not a duplex. I'm not sharing walls with tenants. I'm not, it's not, there's no compromise there. It's a bona fide, high-end residence is what it buys.
So it's not connected to your house.
Well, that's the most interesting thing. The way that my house is laid out is like a horseshoe. And on one side, you have the primary, and then you have a courtyard that's about 25 feet in between, and then you have a mother-in-law on the other side. Sweet.
That's awesome.
Okay?
Dr. Neshy all day long, Gino. This is the Dr. Neshy
awesome
strategy.
I like this.
Okay, so let me tell you the numbers, because this is going to blow your freaking mind. If you're moving, and you're moving to a nice place, this is the way to do it. All right, so I have this house. This casita is 234 square feet. That's it, with an attached bathroom and a walk-in closet. So I open the walls, I take the doors off the closet, I make a little kitchenette in the casita, okay, with a little, and under-the-counter fridge. You put a little sink in it, one of those little stainless steel deals. I put granite countertop on the kitchenette. In the bathroom, I do travertine in the shower. And then my wife and I start thinking, we're like 10, 12 minutes from Intel. There's all kinds of travel. We're in the heart of vacation Mecca.
I smell Airbnb are coming here, Gino.
I put this thing on Airbnb and VRBO. Okay. If I don't make, and just this is just the numbers, okay? $65 a night. My PITI burn on this house is a little over $2,000 a month, $2,050 a month. If I don't make $15,000 in pure cash flow on this casita, I will be shocked. Because of where I am 4 months into the year. Mm-hmm. I will be flat out shocked if I don't make, on the average, $1,300 to $1,400 of cash flow. And what that means is that $2,050 minus the income juxtaposed against the income of $1,300. Guys, I'm living for $750 a month on the average in the fastest growing county in the United States, with travertine on every wall and every shower, with granite, stainless steel. It's the best house my wife and I have ever had, okay? With a pool that our kids don't leave, like, ever, unless they're forced to, okay?
What are your carry costs in the house per month?
$2,050. My property taxes here are $2,500 a year. I was paying more than that for a little house in Lima, Ohio, and like we were talking, if you move that house to Columbus, that $2,500 becomes $7,500.
So, Ben, let me ask you, what other markets do you think this works? Because I'm thinking of Nashville, Tennessee. You've got so many more people coming into Nashville. There's a house shortage.
That's what the book is about. I explain these dynamics. Let me take a step back. So I've basically compressed my expenses. I went from paying $1,350 in Lima for a house half the size in Lima to paying essentially $750 or less for a house twice as much, basically, in Chandler, Arizona, Phoenix, MSA, okay? People always, and this is where I agree with Cardone, you got to have an open mind, you got to think bigger, and you got to think creative. People always say, in order to get ahead, you got to tighten your belt. You got to compress your lifestyle. You got to save. You got to this. You got to that. The reason this works is because I went all out. I went into a great market. I bought a great property. This great property is able to attract appreciation. This great property is able to attract great guests because I was able to make it nice enough. Why? Because the value supports me spending a little cash to make it nice enough. I couldn't have done this in a $200,000 house, not even in Chandler. I couldn't have done this. And if you do those numbers, and I did those numbers in the book, I can do $65, $75 a night in this house, which is why the cash flow is what it is. But, had I not spent the money, had I not made it nice, I could have only been able to do maybe $35 or $40 a night. Guess what? My recapitalization would have been less. It would have taken longer.
Have you been able to systematize it? Do you have cleaners coming? Is all the lawn care paid for? Is it systematized at all or no?
Okay, so the lawn care is paid for. I do the cleaning. I do my own cleaning. I could outsource it, and I probably will outsource it once we get a cleaner for the main house.
That gets interesting to me. Like if you can really, step back and allow the thing to run like a business.
Guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't know that I'm convinced that short-term rentals are a great business model. I think they're specifically an invaluable opportunity for a homeowner. And specifically because you have such an advantage, because you don't have to systematize. Now, I do have
I would rather, though, just because I'd rather not do this stuff, right? That's my only take on it.
And you can. Obviously, if you're making $15,000 of cash flow a year, you can. In my case, because I'm sitting home and not doing much of anything, I feel guilty, kind of. My wife looks at me funny, goes like, dude. But here's the thing. I have it systematized to where the access is systematized, the checkout is systematized. Obviously, Airbnb, VRBO, they're fully automated. The money, my phone just goes ding, ding, and somebody gives me money. That's how that goes. That's the best money. I love that money. That money online, that money's fantastic. I have my real estate money doing the same thing. But it's fantastic. So the only thing that's not systematized is somebody leaves, and you got to get in there and clean. Now, because of the quality of the asset that I have, there's nothing much to do. I mean, it's a really high-end, high-quality finishing textures. You wipe it down, you're done. So basically, the entire turn takes me about 50 minutes. Okay? So you got to pull the sheets, you got to replace the sheets. Now, you do have to wash the sheets that you're pulling down, and the machines take what they take, and then you got to fold them. But the actual hands-on, here I'm walking in the room, I have to empty it out, then I have to bring stuff in. Obviously, I bought 2 sets of everything, so I don't have to wait for the machine to finish doing its thing. I pull the thing apart, I put it together, a little wipe down, disinfectant. It takes me 50 minutes to do the entire thing. Okay? Now, if I am making a lot of money in a month, for instance, and I should take a step back. A couple of weeks ago, a little old lady from someplace where it snows really hard booked an entire month and paid about $2,000. So she's going to be here staying in this casita for the entire month. Okay? Typically, though, in a month where I'm making that much money, $1,500, $1,600, $1,800, that's because I've got 4 to 6 people coming in and out. Okay? So you have turns. But I'm making, $1,700 for, turning the casita 4 to 6 times at 50 minutes a pop.
No, it's not. It's not bad money. I just, to systematize it even more. What's the cost to? What's your cleaning cost if you do put a cleaner in there? What are they charging?
The cleaning cost is not so much of an issue. It's the flexibility that's the issue, because people are flying in and they're saying, "Hey, can I check in this and that? Can I?" In order to be accommodating, you really have to be kind of a little flexible. As a homeowner, I can be. It doesn't bother me, but to be able to call somebody up and say, "Hey, I need you here like now." You can pay extra for that. And I just don't feel like taking a hit on that.
Yeah, you got to get your kids to do it.
I was about to say, the children, you get teenagers, you pay them $15 an hour, $20 an hour. This is the great thing. And
they teach them the value of money. That's their rent. They clean
not
in.
Even that.
So for one reason, I've been doing this for 4 months. I needed to do it myself to understand the dynamics of what it takes, so that when I outsource it, I know exactly what I'm asking for and how much I need to be paying for it. Okay? But as I'm doing it, yes, I hate trading money for hours. I do, and you all do, and we all do. We all get it. I get it. But I've just not felt yet the need to be able to outsource it. I mean, it almost feels wrong to me. It's like I grew up in Europe, and you go to Belgium, and you stay in these little houses that people run, bed and breakfast in Europe, throughout France and Italy and countryside and Belgium and all that. Kind of like it's kind of sexy, there's a little bit of romance to this. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it's taken so long to come to America. Probably because financing of property is so easily done in America that people haven't had a need to generate extra income. In Europe, you're putting down 50%, and you're not getting 4% amortized over 30 years. So in order to be a homeowner, you kind of do have a lot of times to run a bed and breakfast or something to supplement your income.
So Ben, would this work if, let's say you want to buy a house in Chandler, you buy the house, could you rent out the house and the casita? And let's say you want to be a cap appreciation guy and say 3 years, this house I bought for $300. It's going to be worth $400 3 years from now. Let me at least get a little print. You could probably cash flow with that little asset, and 3 years from now, is that
well, if you had 2 rentals based on his numbers, you could cash flow and put people workers in there. Yeah,
I thought about this, and here's the problem. You asked me where you should go, like what markets it work.
Yes.
I think any place people want to retire, any place people want to vacation. And it's not specifically because of Airbnb, but it's because if there's organic demand where people don't have to be there, but they want to be there, there's enough intrinsic value in that location, you're basically buying into appreciation. It might go like this, but if intrinsically the location is sexy, and people always have been and always will be attracted to it, you essentially have retirement, vacation, and employment. In Chandler, I have all 3, which is why I'm here.
So the other thing that's great about what you're doing is I have a big family. So every time I need to go to a hotel, it's $300 a night. So I'm a huge Airbnb and VRBO guy. So for what you're doing, for $65 a night, that hotel room, smelly, crappy, dirty, loud, is probably $95 to $100 a night, correct?
So let me take us back then into regulatory issues, because it's not like there's not regulatory issues. A lot of municipalities are struggling with what to do with Airbnbs. People are saying that landlords, by taking things off of market, long-term market, and doing Airbnb, they're inflating the rental prices in long-term markets. People are saying all kinds of things. Just to give you an example, the governor in Arizona, about, 9 months ago now, probably right around there, passed a law, basically an ordinance, that prohibits municipalities from discriminating against Airbnb. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Welcome to a conservative state. Okay?
That's right.
Where do you go? Okay. Now, having said that, there's HOAs, and HOAs aren't government entities. And HOAs have their own sets of guidelines and things like that. So is there regulatory risk? Yeah. But here's the deal. property has gotten so expensive that home ownership is right now at the lowest rate we've seen in probably 45 years. I mean, literally, we're at 62-something%. We haven't been lower at the rate of property ownership in forever. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that property values have now outpaced income growth by quite a clip. And people can't afford to buy this. So while some people want to make an argument that doing an Airbnb rental in your house somehow artificially inflates rental rates, on the other hand, if American Dream is a function of home ownership, I'm not standing on a corner asking for money. I'm being entrepreneurial. I'm willing to
I'm not trying to get in the way of the market either. Let the market sort it out.
That's exactly it. But you understand who is having that conversation at the governmental level.
Well, the hotel
lobbies.
Yes.
That's right.
So the only lobby who didn't sign on to this ordinance that they passed in Arizona was, guess what?
Is that shocking? No.
No. Okay? So I just feel like this is so permeated our lifestyle at this point. The short-term. Now, again, maybe you can make a case that if a guy owns 5 condos and runs them full-time as Airbnb, he's competing with a hotel. I'm not that guy.
Who cares if he's competing with the hotel, though? Bring it on. Huh? Drive the prices down. Who cares if he's competing with the hotel? We should not be having that conversation. Competition is good. Bring it on. Figure it out. That's what I have to say about it.
You are right. We should not be, but we are. Reality is what it is.
Reality is what it is. But at the end of the day, those people are self-serving and they're doing it for reasons that they don't want to compete. And that's I'm not gonna I'm not good with that.
Correct. So. And there's a lot of lobbying money, and there's we understand all that. Okay. I am just trying to say, listen, what I'm doing and what this book is about is what I think the greatest opportunity in this real estate cycle in 2017 that most newbies and not newbies, guys like us, guys like Gino, guys like myself, that want to 10x our life, but also are smart enough to underwrite that process of 10xing our life. This is a great opportunity. So 3 groups of people for whom this really works. And when I backed into this on accident, I'm doing this just for my family, for myself. But as I sat down and I took some space and I looked at what I'm doing here, I realized, and this is why I wrote the book, 3 groups of people that benefit from this. One group, people living in an expensive market. San Francisco, any place Canada. Guess what? You have retirement. You have vacation. You have employment. This is a perfect way. If you didn't think you can afford a house, you can afford a house. Another group, real estate investors that have tried to get into real estate but haven't been able to quite put their foot in. Guess what? This thing is 25 feet away from me.
Well, this is the first advice that I ever got from a doctor who pushed me into real estate investing going back to 2010. He said, what I did, I went in and got a duplex, which is a little different. He said, I lived in half of it. He said, Jake, this is what you got to do. Best advice that I never took. So I do believe in this, and it's something that I should. Marco did it, right? Your brother.
This is an immigrant thing too. No, I mean, my parents are immigrants. My father was a chef. He lived on a chef's salary for the first 20 years, 18 years I was born, before he went into business. Lived upstairs. We had a legal apartment downstairs. That apartment paid for our tax in New York at the time, 30 years ago, paid for our taxes, insurance. So my mom said, quote unquote, she lived rent free. So it was a beautiful house, half an acre, so same strategy. So my wheels are turning right now because I'm going to St. Augustine, and it's the same exact thing there. I can buy a house.
It's the one place. It's the one place with the separate house that we did the podcast in that day. Yep,
with the location. So my wheels are turning. I mean, it's just something. It's an amazing strategy, and it's also a place where you got to go. You want to go to these viable markets. You want to live in St. Fran.
That's exactly it. I mean, I want to be here. I love being here, and so do other people for the same reasons I do.
Guys, I don't want to keep interrupting, but I'm gonna take this to the next level. I got like 3.5 acres here. I got a large layout on the lake. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a campground in, all right? I don't even want the real estate. I'm going to start renting dirt. This is the mobile home version of this, my friends. All right? I'm going to put a campground, lake access, $50 a night. Bring it on.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Whatever floats. But the thing of it is that I hardly know these people are here. I mean, I'm not renting out a lot of people rent out a bedroom in their house, which to me is weird, but I have a lot of students that are actually doing that. But they're single people, him and her. They're still not opposed to a party here and there. They're renting out to their friends. I get it, the whole thing. But for me, with 2 kids, I'm not having people, down the hallway do the monkey thing, with my 8-year-olds over here, So
what's the monkey thing?
The fact that it's separated quarters, there's no walls attached. There's a courtyard in between. It's brilliant. I don't know what they're doing. They don't know what I'm doing, and yet I have a window right there that I can see if there's anything.
Except you got the teddy bear camera in there, so you do know what they're doing, right?
I don't have.
See what I got to do?
But I do have a window. So it's brilliant. It's why I wrote the book. I am talking about how you remodel, what you remodel, how you price out, which management infrastructure do you use, how do you use Airbnb, VRBO, where do you buy the house, what kind of floor print, what kind of footprint, what kind of floor plan, what kind of square footage. I mean, you got to think about all these things. It doesn't happen accidentally. In my house, for instance, let me give you another example. It's a very interesting floor plan. Not only do I have a casita, but above the garage, which is where I am now, the entire footprint of the garage is one big room. Okay? It's detached from the house. It's a perfect office/podcast. There's never any sound here. Okay? Because the house is down there, and I'm up here. The staircase is on the outside because we're in Arizona. We can do that. Okay? But what this means is that look at my tax breaks. The square footage of the casita plus the square footage of this room are probably about 1/3 of the square footage of this house. Which means what? I'm deducting 1/3 of CapEx, 1/3 of R&M, 1/3 of gas, electric, 1/3 of property tax. If you name it, I'm deducting.
That's great.
Okay.
Actually, Jake's smiling right now. Jake's the light bulb's going off.
So that was important. That's not nothing. Not only is it functional as all get up, but it also makes sense from the tax standpoint. So there's a synergy of things that have to go into place for a good, proper house hack that you can sustain without burning out. That makes sense. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's what the book is about.
So, Ben, last question. How can people get this book? I mean, I want you to send it to Jake and I when it's out there. We're going to put a link on our website. We're going to send it out to all our fans and all. How do people get the book? Where should we go to get it?
I'm going to publish it on Amazon. I'm about a month away still. We're a little early with this podcast, but I'm a month away from publishing. I'm finalizing things, and I'm going to start rolling it out in about 2 weeks with letting people get in and get some freebies and things like that. But the book is actually going to come out about a month from now.
See, what I like about the strategy, Jake, this is, I guess, one of my last points. I love this because you can actually stabilize your life, get your burn rate as low as you can, and then all of a sudden, once you have that freedom to think about other ideas and other stuff, you can really start worrying about the rest of your life and not worrying about paying the mortgage. And that's exactly right. Huge relief for people.
That's exactly right. For guys like us, guys that agree with Cardone on a level that says we only live once and we need to live, quote unquote, live, okay? The scariest thing about living on your terms is the cost of living. And taxes and real estate are the two things that are probably the biggest expenses in our lives. The mortgage, the primary residence, the property taxes, and the income tax.
And the wife.
Well, this strategy basically nullifies the real estate burn, which makes locational freedom possible.
That's
without
great.
really any sweat.
I like it. Like I said, this is Dr. Neshi going back in the day. It's good time-tested advice. So,
but it's like, here's another thing. Here's another component: velocity of money. Why am I making so much more? I mean, on a long-term rent, I could rent it long-term, probably $500 or $600. Airbnb, I'm getting 2 to 3 times as much. Why? Velocity of money.
I say
we
three
all know
times.
about velocity
I'd say 3
of money.
times.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Okay, it's basically, look, the lady that my principal and interest is $1,708. In February, she's paying for it 100%.
You give her a fist bump as she's coming in.
Yeah,
hey baby.
And this happens, I would say, 8 months out of the year, I'm looking at least $1,500-$1,600. And, in the summertime, when it gets to be 114 degrees out here, you would think everything stops. Dude, I lowered my rates, but I'm booked. I'm booked for the entire June.
That's great.
So that means you shouldn't be lowering then. The demand's there. Crank it back up, baby. Come on.
Well, the demand, yeah, and I cranked it back up, actually. Yesterday, we changed it.
So Ben, I'm glad we did this podcast because I want people to see that if they're sick and tired of where they live and they want to move, start looking at cities where you want to go to. Don't think about, let's say you want to go to San Fran and you can't afford it, or you want to go to St. Augustine where I am, or you want to go to Nashville, you can't afford it. Buy the book, think of the strategy, stop wasting time, stop being afraid, and plan accordingly.
No doubt, Gino. That's a great point. Guys, that's going to do it for today. Ben, thanks so much for your time, and can't wait to do it again in the future.
We trust that you enjoyed the Wheelbarrow Profits podcast. Visit jakeandgino.com, your one-stop shop for everything multifamily. See you next time when Jake and Gino share more of their investing secrets with you.